Hi, everybody. I'm pretty late tonight. Sorry about that. It's been a very busy day, and we have moved forward today quite a bit. This is day 1071. 1071. And yeah, it's one of those days that will change the whole direction of this investigation, I believe. And we've had lots of those days. Lots of those days. I'll never forget the day that I received the call, and Rob and I made a U turn, literally made a U turn in our truck to go to a Dollar General to videotape the cashier witness of the FBI man that had been there less than an hour before and said that Richard's remains were found by the FBI in Mexico. And we received the CCTV footage, and we gave that to the CID, we gave that to the command, we gave that to the FBI. It was jaw dropping because everything that the witness, while being, while being a cashier, she didn't stop working. We were talking to her while she was working. And so it was all fresh on her mind. And she told us how it was. And then her coworker took us back to the office to film the CCTV footage um, of exactly this FBI man who turned out to be Nadal Baim, the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, not just any lieutenant colonel, but one that had top secret clearance, so much so that he worked in G3, which is operations, and not only in any operations, but in the 32nd AgCom, Richard's command. And so there's a huge cover up going on here. And I have some breaking news. So let's see if I'm on. Let's see if I'm on before I give the news. Let's see. There we go. Looks pretty good. Okay. I think I have everything memorized that I wrote down. Okay, everyone. This is day 1071. 1071. And I know we have to be long suffering through this and never give up. Never give up. And it's not easy. It has not been easy. I can't even believe that when my dad was sick and he was here living in the house with us and we were taking care of him and we were getting virtually no sleep at all. I'm not joking. Um, and my poor dad, rest in peace. I cannot believe that God gave us a strength, that we maintained the numbers that we did, the people paying attention, the support. And I just want to say thank you so much. And it's days like this that have made, um, this effort always worth fighting for. Justice is always worth fighting for. And if one thing that Rob and I want to do is to prove to the world that that big green machine, the big government, the all those agencies are not as powerful as you think they are. Okay? They're not as powerful as we are. And they're not as powerful as God. And the stars in their courses fought against Sisera. You know, there's a metaphysical power that God sends that fights against evil. And so to be without hope is to turn your back on God. Um, that's not my original quote. That is one of our favorite lines in our family from Anne of Green Gables is you cannot despair, you cannot be without hope. To despair is to turn your back on God. And, to have faith is to believe in things that we cannot see, things that we do not know. But we know that God is going to work it all out for the good of those who love Him, right? To the glory of God, for the glory of God, so that more people will see it, more people. And it is a sanctification process, where you're growing in that faith. You're growing in the knowledge that I don't know everything, but God's going to take care of it. And in Richard's case, we didn't know anything. We didn't know anything. We just knew that Richard told us things are really bad in the military, meaning things are bad morally, and also in the command. We knew what he was saying, that the leadership was really bad. And, you know, coming from us, we are pro army, we are pro military, we are pro our Department of Defense. And yet, I'm here to say that when you call out, if things are really bad, that doesn't mean that you hate the institution, that you're not supportive of the institution. But you cannot be supportive of the institution when it turns corrupt, and that the very institution, the very soldiers, the very service members that you support, because really for us, it's about supporting the service members. That's why and I should put up a picture. I found the picture of a clown uh, uh, that happens to be me in a clown picture. Wait until the saboteurs get a hold of that picture. When I used to perform during Desert Storm and Desert Shield for the children to entertain them while the parents could um, enjoy their time of reuniting together. And I did several different huge functions, some small functions, some in officer clubs, some in NCO clubs. And so I cannot tell you how many care boxes that I've put together to send during these conflicts to our service members. The money that Rob and I have given to uh, the welfare, the different organizations um, to help the families of injured soldiers uh, or soldiers that both parents were deployed, um, and other so many instances. I mean, my husband was in the military 30 years, so we gave everything we could to support. I cannot tell you how many prayers, actually down on the knees type prayers, serving in Protestant Wives of the Chapel, and anything, Tres Dias, anything that would help strengthen our military. And so to call out the military is calling it out from a concerned supporter and saying, look, our 44 four-star generals are up to no good. They are serving foreign and domestic enemies. They are they have committed crimes against humanity, and they are up to no good. And this is for the love of every service member, right? It's for the love of every service member. And so um, we just put out, and I'm going to read it, a letter. Let's see, pull that up. Here it is. And it is a media alert um, letter for immediate release, and I'll just read it. An urgent call for accountability in Richard Halliday's case. This is June 30th, soon June 30th, 2023. And the family of Richard Halliday, a distinguished honor graduate soldier and a whistleblower who has been missing for 1,071 days, is speaking out against the doubters and the saboteurs who question his fate without offering any credible evidence on the contrary. And I'll just put in, the bullying that we're getting, and they're like, there is zero evidence that Lyle Landy, who is too afraid to give his own name, her own name, whatever, he, her, whatever, and to give any evidence on the contrary, that there is zero evidence um, uh, that Richard is alive. Um, so saboteurs who question his fate without offering any credible evidence to the contrary. The United States Army and 15 other agencies have been unable to prove Richard's whereabouts. Yet some individuals continue to demand proof of his murder. So Richard Halliday is known as the Vanessa Guillen First Absent Soldier, drawing attention to the disturbing patterns of soldiers disappearing without a trace, being murdered, and maligned within the military. Despite this alarming designation, the Army has failed to provide any substantial explanation for Richard's disappearance. I'm going to read that again. The United States Army, with all of its money and support and everything, has failed to provide any substantial explanation for Richard's disappearance. Furthermore, the Army failed to perform a welfare check on Richard Halliday, okay, which is a standard procedure to ensure the well-being and safety of military personnel. Now, Richard was a whistleblower, so that makes it even more shocking, because the CID, who is supposed to protect Richard, exposed Richard. And then Special Agent Tavita Nusa not only exposed him, but then sabotaged him by leaking his file. And that, therefore, putting a target on his back. And, I got a lead, and I'll just mention it here, but I got a lead that Richard was reporting that he was assaulted. Okay, that he was assaulted by his platoon leader. So, if you have other information on that, call 941-677-0060. Okay, back to the letter. Furthermore, the Army failed to perform a welfare check on Richard Halliday, which is a standard procedure to ensure the well-being of the safety of military personnel. By not conducting a welfare check, the Army did not take the necessary steps to determine Richard's whereabouts or provide information to his family and loved ones. And also that messed up. They didn't provide him safety. Okay, as a whistleblower, I should have added that in there, which has resulted in their increased distress and the need for answers regarding his disappearance. Absolutely. And a judicial officer has come forward with a formal complaint to the Criminal Investigative Command or Division, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, and the Command of Fort Bliss, revealing people interfering and confessing to acts about bodily harm that strongly suggest foul play. These disturbing revelations essentially amount to a confession of murder. So I'm going to read that again. It's late. So a judicial officer has come forward with a formal complaint to the Criminal Investigative Division, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and the Command of Fort Bliss, revealing people interfering and confessing to acts of bodily harm and that strongly suggests foul play. These disturbing revelations essentially amount to a confession of murder. Yet the Army remains silent. Furthermore, a ban has been imposed on this primary witness, prohibiting him from entering Fort Bliss. We have received confirmation from the Director of Security at Fort Bliss that the ban on the judicial officer was enacted within the JAG, the Judge Advocate General's office. It is imperative that an immediate and thorough investigation is conducted to hold those responsible for hindering Richard Halliday's investigation accountable. That's why the attorney was so upset with us. All caps, mostly in his email, all caps, because this ban has been confirmed by the Director of Security at Fort Bliss to have come from within the JAG office. And this is obstruction of justice. And so you have the Department of Justice, the judicial advocacy participating in obstructing justice. That's why they had their feathers ruffled. You see, any doubters out there need not doubt anymore. And the command remains silent, which is a badge of honor, right? It's a badge of honor when they're silent because you know that you've broken their narrative. And their narrative was, that Richard, the stellar soldier, somehow, some way, with all of the billions of dollars of training and these superb NCOs and generals and all of the lies that were being fed, because we have 44 four-star generals who have been compounding evil within the Army. Okay, that's the one thing that a four-star general can do. He can compound evil really easily. He can compound esprit de corps too. But our 44 four-star generals are serving foreign and domestic enemies. And it's very, very clear. And they're compounding evil within our military forces. This is a national security alert. a national security threat. With leaders like this, who needs enemies? It is imperative that an immediate and thorough investigation, and we would like a congressional inquiry, a congressional inquiry. If you are a soldier out there, contact your congressman and ask for a congressional inquiry into the Richard Halliday case. 100%. 100%. Okay. It is imperative that an immediate and thorough investigation is conducted to hold those responsible for hindering Richard Halliday's investigation accountable. And it is unacceptable that those in positions of power and authority continue to doubt the seriousness of Richard Halliday's case. The Halliday family demands transparency, accountability, and justice for their son. The lack of answers and the failure to conduct a proper investigation raise serious concerns about the integrity of the military justice system. And the Halliday family urges all individuals with relevant information to come forward and cooperate fully with the ongoing investigation. They implore the media, the public, and the military community to rally behind their cause and demand the truth. This is for media, and if media wants to inquire with us for further information, they can call 941-677-0060. So this is, as you can see, we are on sure footing here when the director of security for Fort Bliss confirms that the banning of a key witness in our case with information that amounts to the confession of murder is being banned from Fort Bliss, then you know something is amiss. Something is amiss. And you also know that politically it is becoming expedient. It is becoming the right thing to do now to be a whistleblower, that the evil is losing its grip. And this is a very important time. This is a really wonderful shift in our cause to get justice for our son, Richard Halliday. So that's our really big news. Now, there's another bit of news that I wanted to cover, and it has, this whole conversation of what does COVID have to do with Richard Halliday's case? What does showing magnificent built structures have to do with Richard Halliday's case? And then I was talking to a good friend, and she was like, well, we have a society, the leadership is compounding evil. And I went, oh, well, that's a perfect way of saying what's going on. And that is why, when you're doing this for 1,000+ days, you want to look to things that are good, right? You want to look to things that are good, that are true, and get answers from that. And so to look for answers to good health care, like, this drink that I've been drinking from the beginning, which is 5 lemon rinds and 3 grapefruit rinds. And we just simmer them for at least 3 hours. And then we, put a gurgle of that into our tea, into our water, into our juices or whatever. And we've been drinking that since the beginning. And that's sure better than having to go get um, a Cobra Strike, right? So, we're looking to what is good. And so when I'm doing a hobby that I really love, a painting, I share it. Another hobby that I really love that's dear to my heart is these magnificent architectural structures like star forts, like these amazing buildings, right? That I've showed. And I'm in awe of the people like us. These are people like us, right? But yet they got the better education. They got a skill set education. They got information that was handed down from them on how to build these magnificent structures, on how to do these beautiful paintings, or to do the tapestry. One of my favorite museums ever, is near Kunewalde in Germany. It's right on the Polish border. Um, and it is the Damask Museum. And if you don't know what damask is, it's a type of weaving. Look it up. You've seen it everywhere all your life. You might not know the name of it. And it is amazing what it takes to weave that. Now, of course, we have technology and we have these big machines that weave. But going into that museum and learning about that in that area that developed damask um, tapestry, tablecloths, uh, you know, just the whole weaving of the fabric of it. It's just amazing. And so if you're ever in Germany, if you're ever in that area, I would suggest that you visit that museum. It's one of my favorites. It's pretty small, um, but it's amazing. So these are things that I look to get inspiration, to get energy, to get understanding of what has gone wrong in our society, that we are focused on sex cults, that we are focused on criminal syndicates. Because you see, when those skill sets diminish, then um, these sex cults grow, and we have compounded evil. We have compounded evil so much so, with the drugs, with the sex cults, with the criminal syndicates, that right now we have the case of Hunter Biden. Okay. Um, of course, it's in Richard's case. Richard's case is about sex cults. Richard's case is about drugs. Richard's case is about the border, and it is about the smuggling, and it is about the human trafficking, and it is about whistleblowers, and it is about criminal syndicates that make a lot of money, that have infiltrated our military, um, that did this to Richard. Okay? It says, you know, there's a compounding evil. And I have to make comparisons with what's going on now in the Hunter Biden's case to our son's case, because it is about criminal syndicate. It is about sex cults. It is about drugs. It is about injustice. It is about a lot of people being afraid to speak up. Because let me tell you, we have some whistleblowers, but there should be long lines of whistleblowers for the Hunter Biden case. Because 3 years ago, the laptop from hell was released, and as the evil has trickled out of it, which I don't really like to look at, but it's out there. If I can, I'm not even searching for it, and it comes right in front of my face. Um, and nobody is outraged? We're not outraged? Why? Because we don't have the skill set anymore. We're dependent on that government. We're dependent on handouts. We're dependent on the military for our wages, for our job. We're dependent on the contracts that the military um, gets or the civilians get from the DoD when it's at war. So let's just be at war. Let's find any reason to be at war, and we'll use our volunteer sons and daughters as pawns, as cannon fodder, so that we can have our deals. We can have our contract suite deals. And that has been obvious that that is a connection with Richard's case. Absolutely. Because there should be a long line of people speaking up, good and bad. Good and bad. But no, I got sent today some screenshots of the whole Danae thing. Oh, Richard was giving a uh, giving credit cards out and going to Cancun and um, you know, blah blah blah. We need to find out who that person is that was talking like that because I think they're implicated in the murder of my son because everyone knew that that was a scam, except for us. It took us a while, but anyone that was near Richard knew that that was a scam because the soldier that was supposedly had Richard's credit cards was in his unit. Was in his unit. And he absolutely denied it. And this person that's talking says, "Oh, I'm in the unit as well." So whoever is saying that, we need to find out. We need a subpoena. We need a subpoena to find out who that person is because I think they're implicated in the murder of my son. So today is a big day because we have just released this information that we've had for a little bit behind the scenes. And that's why we asked Judge Robert Lee Shook. That's why we asked Major General Eisenhower. That's why we asked our contact within the JAG. And, you know, they were upset because this implicates them in the crime of obstruction of justice. Whoever in JAG banned a primary witness in Richard Halliday's case that has information so important to his case that he witnessed people confessing not only to many other things, but to the bodily harm. The bodily harm. That is, and then the command, they've been sitting on this for over a year and a half. Okay. This is the information that we have on record that Soto scrubbed from Richard's file. So let's send Richard's file up to the cold case, but we're going to scrub it first of any mention of this confession of bodily harm. Right? So, yeah. So, what do you call that? Tampering with evidence? Obstruction of justice? I mean, Special Agent Marlon Soto, um, he should be in real big trouble. He should be in real big trouble. And you ask, why did he do it? Well, I think he was protecting Tavita Nusa. I think he was buddies with Tavita Nusa. Are they brothers or what are they? So, um, that so if you just now came on, I was just telling everybody that we have the director of security confirming that the banning of our one of our prime witnesses from entering Fort Bliss, which is a judicial officer. So, with that information, okay, if you're a judicial officer, um, you have clearance. You have clearance because you can go into the FBI mainframe. Why are they banning him from Fort Bliss? Because he um, witnessed and made a complaint. Let me ask you this question. How many cases do you know that one of the prime witnesses is a judicial officer? How many cases do you know where a prime witness is a judicial officer? And the media is silent on this case? And the Commander Eisenhower is silent on this case? When a prime witness is a judicial officer, tell me how, and has witnessed people talking about the interference of Richard's case and committing acts of bodily harm, which is essentially, really, when you put it together, a good case for a confession to murder. So, and this is bombshell, but and I don't know where it's going to come from, but we're going to have even more bombshells because God is good and God is in control. And the Bible is from heaven, heaven, heaven. And what do I mean by that? The stars in their course fought against Sisera. All things work together for the blessings, for the good of those that love the Lord. I stand on those things. And, when I was called a white Christian nationalist, and they think that's bad. But I have flags right now outside my door in my yard because I love my nation. Does that make me a nationalist? I think so. I think so, and I love my nation. And I have my flags in my yard for 4th of July. Being called white Christian, well, I am. I am. Uh, what am I supposed to do? Oh, no, I'm not. I'm not white. No, I'm white, and I'm a Christian, and I'm a nationalist in the best way. In the best way. So they're derogatory remarks in my MAGA. Oh, MAGA, make America great again. Okay. Who's not MAGA? Who's not MAGA? Raise your hand if you don't want America to be great again. It's just such nonsense. and prove that there's not any proof that Richard was murdered. Well, we have a prime witness and of a confession. We have the FBI man. We have the silence, and the silence, and then the banning of the witness by the JAG, by the JAG on Fort Bliss. I mean, this is a bombshell, absolute bombshell. And so I wanted to talk about Hunter Biden just a little bit here because what it shows you is that the JAG that's banning a prime witness that could lead to a murder charge, right? That could lead to the death penalty in Richard Halliday's case. Um, they're picking and choosing. They're banning. They're picking and choosing which witness can come forward, which witness can have influence, right? That's what the DOJ is doing. Well, that's what they just did in Hunter Biden's case with this, what's his name? Tony Bobulinski, right? Tony Bobulinski. He was willing to testify against. He was a partner. I think he was a partner, an associate, a partner with Hunter Biden. He wanted to come out and testify against him. And what did they do? They never called him back. They just gave him silence. They never acknowledged him. Well, they couldn't ban him from a military base. Maybe Bobulinski has to go and see if he's been banned from a military installation as his punishment for wanting to come out and say what he knows. Maybe he should find out because that's what happened to um, our witness, right? Not just any witness, but a prime witness in the Richard Halliday case. So, absolutely. Here's Danielle. Danielle, thank you for your prayers. Did Lalani file a restraining order against the individual so he uh, what is can't talk to individuals on base because of the alleged bullet holes in her wall? Okay, well, I've went over that. I went over that with a fine-tooth comb. She is not credible. She's not credible. She allowed a child to be sexually assaulted in her master bedroom. Lalani Hart allowed a child to be sexually assaulted in her master bedroom by multiple, not just one, multiple members of her household, and she didn't report it, and it went on and on. She didn't report it uh, for almost 2 years. She lost her credibility at that moment that she confessed that. She lost her credibility when she confessed that she, has a thing for child porn. Okay, and that she had child porn in her home for long periods of time. She lost her credibility when she wow, took the leaked file from Tavita Nusa. She lost her credibility when she was having an affair while she's married. And on and on. And, you know, let's not forget to mention that First Lieutenant Dallas Hart, while in uniform, while serving there on Fort Bliss with Richard, was having an incestuous relationship. Yeah, thank you for reminding me about that. And the allegations that were made after he became a witness and the knowledge of key evidence. Exactly. It was all a setup job, and we have more information on that. And but we have the evidence of Miss Kocherga. Miss Kocherga calls. She calls me, and all she wants is to somehow um, ban our key witness, one of our key witnesses. And she doesn't want to hear about our, and that's, let me see if I can readjust that allegation. Um, because I have it on record. It's like, is he helping you? Uh, I, she wanted to smear him. I think that's a better analogy. She wanted him to be guilty. She wanted him to be guilty, and she knew that he wasn't. So that was such a setup job for El Paso Matters. It was such a setup job. And I went through it with a fine tooth comb, and you absolutely know it just jumps at you as big as Dallas that there is no meat to it, that there is no legitimacy to it. And that's why I complained. That's why Rob and I decided to complain and to say, why are you making Leilani Hart a legitimate witness in a complaint against our one of our prime witnesses in this case? This is hurting the search for a missing soldier. And she didn't care. She didn't care. They're absolutely trying to sabotage and smear another witness and destroy them, retaliate against them. Just like this attorney, and I don't think I posted it, but this attorney, um, he threatened us. He retaliated against us. Nobody on Fort Bliss is allowed to represent you. Really? This is who made that decision? Who made that decision in the JAG of Fort Bliss that nobody is allowed to help us, that nobody is allowed to represent us, to represent Richard on Fort Bliss? Who who that the JAG and find Richard Halliday, they severed their ties. Who made that decision? That's absolutely criminal. Absolutely. And then we have to remind them, we're the family that you appointed to be the chief investigators to their missing son's case. We're not investigators, but you appointed us to it. And we've done the best that we can. And when we ask questions like, what judge signed off on that warrant? What JAG or judge put together the probable cause affidavit for that warrant? Is there a warrant? Right? Is there who is responsible for banning? We gave them a chance to admit to it. We already had it from the director of security of Fort Bliss, but we wanted to know, would they admit to participating in the banning of our judicial officer, a prime witness in the people that are interfering, and also bodily harm, acts of bodily harm, committing acts of bodily harm. I mean, what's going on? And they're silent, and the media silent, and Kocherga, who absolutely knows how to get in touch with me, doesn't give me a call and say, we need to talk about Richard's case. We need to put this out there. You know, talk about criminal syndicate. Now you know why I like to look at beautiful things to keep me going, to keep the psyops away, keep good health, and keep looking at beautiful things. My beautiful flowers, my oh, you should see my beautiful flowers. I have to take some pictures of them. That was just something else this year. I had some seeds and I planted them. Zinnias, dahlias, and marigolds. And I planted some nasturtiums too. But in this row, I had planted these and watered them. And Rob taking them out too. We have a little small greenhouse. He accidentally stumbled and the tray spilt over everywhere. So we just took these little seedlings and threw them back in the tray. And I thought, okay, we'll see. Um, and I planted them anyway, and you would not believe them. How? And I kind of begrudgingly did it, like, okay, I better, just plant them and see what happens. And they are beautiful, y'all. See, we don't know what God has in store for us. We really don't. And, at the beginning of this, Richard has been so vindicated. He has been so vindicated from the beginning of this. You have to be really not paying attention to this case to think that, to not consider him a major hero. Uh, just an amazing young man. He is an amazing young man to have stood his ground against this real criminal syndicate. I mean, there are good people in there, but we have the compounded evil from top trickling down to our volunteer sons and daughters. And it has made our command sergeant majors think it's okay to not follow SOP, standard operating procedure. It has made our command sergeant majors and our sergeant majors and our first sergeants and our commanders afraid. Afraid to do the right thing. Afraid to have esprit de corps. He was shaking in his boots in front of me. He has information, and he decided against telling us. For a whole year, the whole first year, I was just waiting for Command Sergeant Major Jake Jakovitz to tell us what he knew, because I knew he knew, because I saw it. I was there. I saw him shaking in his boots. And the Department of Justice gets to decide who and what witness. And now the JAG gets to decide who and what witness. And I have been calling out Command Sergeant Major Jakovitz from the beginning. He works at the VA there now. And he decided against what's good. He decided against the Medal of Honor ethos. He decided against the esprit de corps. He decided for the pedophiles. He decided for the soldiers committing incest. He decided for the murderers. He decided for the conflicts of interest. He decided for Soto and the scrubbing of Richard's file. He might not have known it, but I think he knows more. but he's afraid. And so, what makes this man that claims to be a family man that held the title of Command Sergeant Major of the 32nd ADCOM shake in his boots in front of us several times, apologize to me for the disgrace? What makes him so afraid that he has to side with the criminal syndicate that hurts children, that sexually assaults children, that brings in girls for the fun of it and exposes them to sexual assault, sexual harassment, drugs, and whatnot? What makes it fun for them to think it's okay, or bold for them to think it's okay? Because they laugh when they say it. And it is the compound of evil that we all are subject to. We're all subject to this, and it makes us rotten people. And so what Richard did was just amazing. Absolutely amazing for his age and for not knowing that area, not knowing anyone in that area, not even being a good driver, not, I mean, y'all, he was not, not prepared as, and he just did something remarkable because he had a moral backbone. He knew morality and he knew the effects of compounded evil. And he stood his ground, and no way would he side with pedophilia. No way. Like the Department of Justice is doing right now by protecting Biden. And that's at the highest level, y'all. And that's what we should be really upset about. But what people are upset about is this money laundering and money schemes and all of that. But the children are big money, and they're exploiting them. So, and the Department of Justice is picking and choosing who can be a witness. And now the JAG on Fort Bliss is picking and choosing who can be a witness. And Kocherga with El Paso Matters, with her power in the media, is picking and choosing who can be a witness. That's darn right evil. In the disappearance of Richard, it seems, in my opinion, and the allegations that were made after he became a witness, yeah, I'm just thinking they are trying to smear, yep. And is his hospital record or incident report about his forearm injury in his file? No. And there was, we had a lead that confirmed that there was a fight. Okay. Um, Now, because the hospital, well, we have, um, the superficial cut. So that, let me tell you, Jay Paulin and what he wrote, it was quite different. Why? Why all of these narratives? The only time you make up these lying narratives is when you're trying to cover up a major crime that could destroy your life, that could land you in prison or put you on death row when you go to the extremes like this. So, we're going to keep going. We're going to keep asking people for help. And I'm sorry that the last 2 days I've been a little bit saucy, I guess, spicy. Um, and I guess it's just because so many things are happening and my energy is up. But but I don't mean to be that way. I really want to be humble and grateful because at 1071 days for anyone to pay attention to this, because this is what they do. They drag it on so much that you don't even remember, that you don't remember the crime, and it just goes away and nobody is charged and no one's held accountable. They just drag it on and on and on. And absolutely, they were trying to sweep this under the rug. They did not want to lose their positions, their stars, their stripes. Um, and they have been trying to sweep it under the rug. They have brought out all their tools to turn them into weapons against us. We absolutely have seen that, and this, you know, um, you have the burden of proof that he was murdered. You have the burden of proof. There is no burden. No, where is your burden of proof that he is alive? You're telling me that the big green machine doesn't know where Richard is? I think they know exactly where he is, and that's why he was designated a yellow Interpol. That's why they um, conducted the guard mount like they did. That's why they covered up FBI man. That's why they let Danae do her thing. That's why they let these sites and these people commit crimes by stealing my image, stealing Richard's image, um, and our name. Um, you know, this is fraud, absolute wire fraud. And also, yeah, the sabotage of Richard's case. And this is was all allowed to happen. I think it was all the okay to happen. And we even got the confirmation, hey, the command gave the okay for the murder of Richard Halliday. And they're just silent. They're not giving me an official paper or sending it to Rob and saying, look, we will swear that this and this and this and this and this is the case. I mean, they asked that from us. They asked that from every volunteer son and daughter to swear an oath. Why can't they to a family of a missing soldier that is so many irregularities and we have so many hard facts? Why can't they give us an official response? I don't think that's too much to ask. Okay, everyone. Thank you so much. Um, yeah. And as time goes by, the main witness will forget important details. Well, he has everything on record, so he's okay. Federal judges are used to others trying. Yes. Federal cases let individuals build time to incriminate themselves. Yeah. So thank you for your wisdom. You're always, gosh, great comments. Um, and always teaching me something, that's for sure. So thank you so much, Danielle. And I just want to say, God bless everyone. Have a great day. I mean, we're in July now. We're in July now. So God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing.